Everybody, welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm Matt Dillahunty, joined this week Don Baker, and a special guest, Amie Parsons, is down. So we're going to talk about Camp Quest, and we're going to talk a little bit about the State Board of Education rally today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We are live. Today is Sunday, May 16th, 2010, where we just left a rally, and well, actually, we just left the bar that we went to after the rally, and there are folks still at that bar, at the Dog and Duck, and I think they're going to try and play a drinking game with today's show, but, please drink responsibly.
Yeah. Don't mention Pascal's wager.
Yes, never say Pascal's wager. Don't refer to Pascal's wager. If you're a theist calling in today, do not present Pascal's wager in any form.
That's right.
Because you'll get people loaded.
That's the secret word today.
So, as mentioned, we're live. This is a live call-in television program sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state, something that was very important and very prominent at today's rally. In addition to this program, the ACA also sponsors a bi-weekly internet audio podcast called The Nonprofits. For more information about that program, you can go to nonprofitsradio.com. That's P-R-O-P-H-E-T-S. And the Nonprofits is temporarily on hiatus while we adjust schedules. There were too many conflicts on the every other Saturday, so there's a lot going on with graduation in the summer, etc. It's not dead. We'll get back to it just as soon as we can. There are people moving and schedules are changing, so we'll get around to that. For more information about the television show, you can go to the website for this program. It's www.atheist-experience.com. And for more information about the ACA, you can visit www.atheist-community.org. There you'll find a frequently asked questions page along with a calendar, links to events, and happenings around the Austin area, because not only do we produce these media programs on television and as internet podcasts, but we have a meeting or a brunch every Sunday at Romeo's on Barton Springs Road, except for the first Sunday of the month when we host a lecture series at the Austin History Center located at the corner of 9th and Guadalupe. We have happy hours every Thursday at the Dog and Duck Pub, where everybody is over getting drunk right now. No, they're not getting drunk. They're responsible, intelligent adults who are enjoying, as Rush Limbaugh would say, adult beverages, and watching this program. That's at 17th and Guadalupe. We're there on Thursdays from 7 o'clock. And the big announcement for today is that we have set a date for the 2010 Bat Cruise. It's going to be, I believe, September 25th. If you visit the ACA website, there's already information up there and a sign-up page. Please, as a reminder, the boat is only going to hold about, I think they have 140 max, and I think we're going to close off registration at about 120 or so, just to make sure. That's September 25th. Austin, for those of you who don't know, has the largest metropolitan bat population on the planet, upwards of 3 million plus, and we rent a boat, go out on Town Lake, take some food and beverages out there, enjoy a nice evening out on the lake, and watch the bats go out for their nightly feed. It's something we do every year, and I don't know if we're going to add events to this year's or not, but registration is open, and I urge people to head over and sign up ahead of time so you can save your seat.
Yeah, we invite out-of-towners to come to that. Definitely.
We announced it at today's event because there were so many people in from out of town for this rally about the State Board of Education. It was put on by American Atheists. Kathleen Johnson was our host. Joe Zemecki, Ed Buckner was there. They read a statement from Christopher Hitchens, or I guess a kind of a mini speech that Christopher Hitchens wrote especially for the event. I have no idea how many people were there, but we had a good time out in the sun for a little bit. And so Amie came down for the event, and I've been saying, oh, we got to get Amie on the show, specifically to talk about Camp Quest. So we're probably going to spend a little time. The phone lines are already lighting up, and we'll get to calls when we get to calls, but I definitely don't want to to let you leave without having an opportunity to talk about Camp Quest. So why don't you go ahead and tell people a little bit about what Camp Quest is, how it got started, and what you're doing.
Okay, well, Camp Quest Inc. started in Ohio in 1995 with Helen and Ed Kagan, and they actually, sadly enough, Helen passed away recently, but they started a memorial scholarship fund for camper ships. So there was definitely a positive that came about of that. So that was exciting. Because of the camper ships, we're able to send campers that need a little help or need a lot of help to camp. Camp Quest Texas was started a year ago, I guess. We started with a one-day camp, which was a lot of fun. We had huge participation for our first ever camp, almost 30 campers. And then this year we have a week-long camp going on in Brownwood, Texas at a 4-H conference center. And we're really excited about it. Right now we have 27 campers, which is the most ever out of the first-time Camp Quest camps that have gone on in the nation.
Great.
Which is pretty exciting. Go Texas. And, I think it's because mostly people see the need in Texas being, I call it the buckle of the Bible Belt. They cinch it tight here in Texas. And so it's a much-needed thing here, and we're really, really excited about it.
Now, I know there's been a lot of support from this. I know Penn and Teller actually contributed, and I've talked about it a number of times on the show, but I'm wondering, I've gotten emails from people who say, hey, do you know of any camps that I could send my kids to during the summer that has nothing to do with religion? And this being an atheist program and me being, a vehemently anti-religious person, I thought it'd be good to point out and let you talk a little bit about what they do at Camp Quest and why it's a secular camp and not like some anti-religious camp. It's not like the reverse of, for the people who saw Jesus Camp. It's not like we're doing the opposite of that.
No. This is not anti-religious at camp. And actually, we've had religious people come and participate in camp because our focuses are mainly on critical thinking, reasoning, and problem-solving skills that children usually aren't exposed to in public schools today. We focus on government and ethics. We really try to get them to think about the world they live in and how they are responsible for how it turns out, basically. And so it's so much more than just an anti-religious. I mean, it's not an anti-religious camp. It just means that everyone's welcome. It just does not have a religious bias or agenda to it.
So kind of like the atmosphere that we'd like to see in the State Board of Education and in politics around the world, where this pluralistic society permits anyone to attend without adhering to somebody's particular religious beliefs.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm sure another theme is that the kids have fun, right?
Oh, yes. There's going to be lots of fun.
There's no fun at this camp.
That's right.
Well, no, this year...
All serious stuff.
Right, no. This year our theme is Reason Rocks, because reason does rock, but we also have a band coming and playing on the last day. We're going to be rocking the house. We're going to be making our own music, our own instruments, learning about the theories of music and whatnot. So no, it's way cooler than just we're not going to be, our nose in books or anything like that. It's
Well, it makes
a lot
me
of
want
fun.
to be a kid again, to go attend something like
Yeah,
that.
well, you can always
great.
volunteer.
Okay. Well, I enjoy teaching, so I might do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we
That was nice area.
can, I set up a slide that had the actual website for Camp Quest. I want to make sure it gets up there. It's campquesttexas.org, and you can go to that website and find out a lot more information about what goes on at the camp, what they need, and by the way, this is a nonprofit organization, what they need insofar as assistance, the Camp Quest Scholarship or Camperships or whatever they're called, and what the availability is, the dates, get the registration. By the way, what are the dates for this year? Do you know?
It's August 1st through the 7th this year, and
So it's not a one-day camp this year. You've gone from a
No.
one-day camp last year
No.
to a week.
right, everyone had so much fun that one day that they said, please, you have to have a week-long camp. So here it is. We're going to have s'mores every night and campfire every night. It's going to be a blast.
Awesome.
You probably have repeat campers, or you'll probably have a whole string of them, won't you?
I hope so, because at age 15, they're allowed to be junior counselors. So 15, 16, 17, they're junior counselors, and we definitely want kids back to
And what's
fulfill
the
those
youngest
spots.
age?
8.
8.
It's 8 to 15 as our regular campers, and then 16 to 18 as junior counselors.
See, and now I wish I could. I'm with Don. I wish I could go.
You should.
Because when I was a kid, I went to church camp.
Oh yeah.
Now, which I will admit was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
We were down Lake of the Ozarks. So there was boating and whatnot. But we were also in church every day, several times a day, which at the time was not a problem for me because that's what I believed and it was, something to do. But a camp that was more based about discovery, exploration, science, about learning, nature and the nature of reality, and then having fun on top of it would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Don, do you want to talk a little bit about what we saw today at the State Board of Education rally, and then we'll...
Well, I guess I'll give a little introduction. We've had a lot of controversy recently ongoing controversy with the State Board of Education. They are injecting a lot of their own sort of ideology and religion into the textbook curriculum, and a lot of people are pretty upset about it. And today we had a rally down at the Texas State Capitol from 11 to 2 roughly. And we were there to have some good speeches and get people riled up and interested in that. We had about 200 people out today. We wish we had more. We had some great speakers from American Atheists and some other groups. And a lot of folks were, helping to educate us about some of the things that were being taken out of the textbooks, like Thomas Jefferson and Thurgood Marshall. Those are important people in our history, very important people who have made big contributions, and for some reason, kids in Texas aren't going to be learning about the importance of those folks.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out that while this event was put on by American Atheists, there were theists who showed up as well, because this isn't an atheist issue. It's not like, in much the same way that Camp Quest isn't trying to shove atheism or anti-religion down anybody's throat. Our issues with the State Board of Education is not that we want to teach atheism or atheist values, because there are no such things. I mean, it's a response position. There are no dogma, tenets, or anything else. It's not an ism, and atheism isn't even relevant to this. What we're talking about is a proper application of church-state separation. We're talking about teaching people the truth and not pushing an agenda. And I don't even have kids. One of the biggest reasons that I was out there to support it was that in the event that I do, I would like to have my kids receive an education in the public schools, if that's where they attend, that I'm already paying for, that is actually honest, that is about discovering the world that we live in and not about pretending that we live in a different world or trying to hide reality from our kids. It's absolutely, it boggles my mind, some of the things that they're doing. And the big reason there's a concern this year, we've already had the creationism versus evolution fights that shouldn't have ever happened in the first place, but we had those issues. Now they've gone on and changed history standards. The State Board of Education elections are coming up. There are many seats that are up. Are they all up?
No,
About half.
almost half, yeah.
And this new board are going to be presiding specifically over health standards. What are the standards that we teach in health classes in public schools? If you don't think this is critical, I don't know what to tell you. It's time for people who actually care about the future, who don't want to sacrifice our future, our kids' future, on the altar of ideology, to actually stand up, contact your representatives, get involved, find out who's running in the elections for the State Board of Education in your area, what they actually stand for, send them letters, encourage them to come out and actually discuss the issues and talk about what their position is, and find the people who are actually in favor of education and not indoctrination. I can't say any more than that.
Yeah, it is that simple. That we have a lot of folks on the school board who are trying to indoctrinate kids, and it's just completely irresponsible. And we have to do what we can, both in terms of public outcry and in the voting booth, to improve that situation.
Well, and you touched upon health issues that are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And, Texas is #1 in the nation on multiple teen pregnancies. So this abstinence-only right-wing agenda that they have going on here is hurting our children. And for them to say, oh, no, it's working, it's not. The statistics are talking for themselves. And it's scary. I have 2 children, and one is in public school. And to me, I'm quite frankly, I'm scared. I'm really scared.
There's it's not necessarily a sky is falling, but if you don't think this is important and if it doesn't make you nervous, I don't know what else to say. I mean, we're talking about, what our kids are going to learn, and these are the people that are going to be taking care of us in our old age to some extent.
Well, or we'll have to take care of them. I mean,
Yeah.
these are people who if you're having a teenage pregnancy, you're going to be dependent on your family or your community for support. There's no way about it. It's a very hard thing for a young parent to be doing, and if we can prevent that, if we can delay pregnancies through education, that's a good thing. Let's wait until people are a little stronger and a little able to do that, instead of being caught by caught with their pants down, so to speak. Getting pregnant when they're just being miseducated by our own school system. This just doesn't make any sense.
We were unable to actually get a camera out there today, or at least to record everything. We do have some of the footage, and there were a number of other people out there who recorded it. What I'm hoping to get is some footage from that. I'm sure it'll be available online. If you get a chance, go out and watch a couple of the speeches where it just, obviously Christopher Hitchens wrote something to be presented. David, is it Tyler, I believe, who writes for the American Atheist magazine, also gave a really good talk that was one of the best impassioned pleas to get people to care about what the State Board of Education is doing. Texas is the largest single adoption state in the nation, and so this handful of people that sit on our board and determine what the standards are going to be for Texas dictates what school book manufacturers produce in order to meet the Texas standards. And for a lot of smaller states that can't necessarily afford other options, they're going to get Texas books as well. And the nice thing is that there are grassroots movements around the country where people are saying, look, we don't want the Texas books. If Texas wants to screw up, they can screw themselves up. Now, with us living here, we have the opportunity to actually address these issues with our representatives, with the State Board of Education. By the way, none of them showed up today. I don't know if they don't care. I don't know if they just didn't know or uninterested.
No, I'm pretty sure Kathleen invited them all.
I'm pretty sure that they were all invited as well. The important thing to note, though, is that in addition to today's rally, there's an additional rally this Wednesday, May 19th. You can go to tfn.org, Texas Freedom Network, which is tracking all of this stuff that's going on, and you can go on their website to actually register to testify before the State Board of Education on Wednesday at that rally.
So Amie, you were a speaker today. You were one of the people up there. Did you want to maybe do a little quick synopsis of what you were talking about, or is there a particular issue that you care a lot about that you?
There's a lot of issues.
Yeah. Okay.
The State Board has made it quite easy to have a long grocery list of issues. My biggest thing was Thomas Jefferson being taken out of the Enlightenment period and of the Founding Fathers.
Oh yeah.
He was. I read through all the pages and I looked for him. I could not find him, and so for me, that's the hot button.
That's one of the big names I think of when I think of the Enlightenment, especially in the United States.
Yes.
It makes no sense to take him out of that.
Yeah, one would think that, and then the men that they replaced him with, Charles Carroll, for instance. You go to Wikipedia and there's literally 5 sentences about him, and they're taking out very important figures in our American history and replacing them with people that really, I'm not saying they didn't make a difference, but their impact wasn't as large, and so that's devastating to me.
And it's my understanding that Jefferson in particular is contentious because the religious right is very much kind of against Jefferson because he was created this wall of separation between church and state, and this is one of our important founding principles of the United States. And he was also a bit anti-Christian. that wasn't his main thing by any
Right.
means. But
Right, it wasn't his focus.
he's become kind of their boogeyman, I think, right?
I think so. I think, they have to have an enemy, and they chose him, unfortunately.
That's just sad.
It is sad.
He's such a brilliant, amazing person, and I'm proud to have him as one of the founders.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I have to agree. I think it was your husband that had the sign, "Where's Thomas Paine?"
Where's Thomas Paine?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's another important name that's just gotten trashed along the way.
Disappeared.
I'm a little more passionate about Paine because I had no idea who the hell Thomas Paine was until I actually
Oh, really?
escaped from my religious beliefs and began investigating the history of religion in this country as one of the subjects. Because we weren't taught about Thomas Paine in school. I mean, the guy who named the country, the guy who, along with Jefferson, was responsible for our revolution. And, by the way, the French Revolution.
Revolution,
It's, and yet you don't hear this. And why? It's because he also wrote a book called Common Sense that took religion to task.
No, Age of Reason. He wrote Common Sense and
Common Sense was the first pamphlet, and then Age of Reason as well. That takes religion to task, and Jefferson isn't very popular because he had deistic views as opposed to Orthodox Christian views. Although I'm not even quite sure what Orthodox Christian views would have been acceptable at this point. So.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and now that we've been up here a while, I'm sure there are people in the chat room who are screaming, "Shut up and take calls! Shut up and take calls!" Well, guess what? It's our show.
we're gonna make.
Oh, I missed all the guys in the chat room. Let's go ahead and take calls and see what people have to say. Kevin in Houston, how are you?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Very well, thanks.
I have a couple of questions. My first question is, what is your opinion on what the Holy Spirit is? What do you actually think it is? Is it people going nuts and having brain seizures, or you think it's something else?
I'll let you take that, Matt.
It depends. I mean, I'm not completely sure. We'd have to define what you're talking about. I mean, the Holy Spirit is used in a bunch of different connotations to a bunch of different religious people. I mean, my girlfriend, by the way, went to an extreme Pentecostal church today where people were supposedly touched by the Holy Spirit and were jumping around and talking in tongues and flopping on the ground. And then there are other people who have a completely different view of it. I think it's not for me to answer in the sense that first we would need to define what we're talking about. But by and large, when people, in my experience, have referred to the Holy Spirit, I have no idea what they mean even after they explain it. It's if you're asking what's the cause of this, speaking in tongues and flopping around on the ground and all this other stuff, I think we'd have to go back to popular delusions and the extraordinary madness of crowds and other things like that. That there could be any number of explanations. There could be different explanations for different people and in different religions and different experiences from time to time. At best, we'd have to say, we don't know, but you sure can't demonstrate that it was something supernatural.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I think. I'm an atheist, by the way, and my family, they participate. They go to Pentecostal churches. They're pretty much Pentecostal extremists, if you will. And I've seen this type of behavior, but when I look at it, it just doesn't seem right. And it usually happens in a crowd. It's usually not just one individual person.
There's some amount of theater to it, I think. That it's really sort of like keeping up with the Joneses. You have to show that you also have the Holy Spirit or whatever, and you do the song and dance, just for show, so that you kind of fit in. There's some peer pressure, I think, involved with it.
And we already know, I mean, there have been a number of experiments done, some of them, scientifically, and some of them just for laughs on TV, where, for example, I saw one, there's a YouTube clip where there are a bunch of people on an elevator, and they all turn around and face the back of the elevator, except for the one guy who's the test subject, and they see how long he's going to stand there uncomfortable before he, too, turns around and faces the back of the elevator, and he inevitably does. Now, if you take that out of the context of humor, that individual might say that they felt a compulsion to turn around and face the back of the elevator. You see it in sports where you have fans and people are in a heightened state. It's or riots and fights and things like that. Mm-hmm. People do things in crowds that they don't necessarily do individually. So when you put people in a church setting where there's music and excitement, the adrenaline gets pumping, and other people are doing this. My roommate had a friend who was a Pentecostal, and when it came time for him to go up before the congregation and speak in tongues, and he had no idea what he was supposed to do, the pastor leaned over him and said, "Just fake it, we all do." Now, I'm not saying that they all fake it, but in this case, that was the case.
Yeah, that's. I've read all about the scientific experiments, and that just seems to be the only logical explanation to me so far as to what it is.
Okay. Well, you had another question?
No, I forgot the other question, but yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, thanks, Kevin.
You can call back later. Thank you.
We've got Taylor in York.
Hey.
Hey, Taylor.
Just before I start, I want to, all these people in the chat room were saying something earlier, and I thought it was interesting. I don't want to refute this, I don't want to debate it, but I just want to say nutritional science is something that not really anyone fully understands, because even though we can understand compounds in like food and what they're made out of, we can't really, for whatever reason, I don't understand why, we can't really predict what they do in the body. I
have no idea what you're talking about, Taylor.
Start again.
It has nothing to do with atheism. I want to say that to all the people who are in the chat room listening. And
okay.
This isn't the show to make shout-outs to the chat room. Only I get to do that.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm an atheist, but I have something I want to say. I thought there's an argument for the belief in God. It doesn't really have any evidence for God, but I find it really interesting. Do you know who William James is? He was a philosopher, but he had a lecture called "The Will to Believe," and basically his whole point was that sometimes you need to believe in something before you can actually find out if it is true or not. And that's not to say that believing in something will make it true, but sometimes truth can only be revealed if you believe in it first. And an example of that would be...
Yes, give me an example.
This is what his scenario was. There's a man, or a boy and a woman, and they're like together or something, and the boy wants to know if the woman is in love with him, and but he doesn't know. He has no evidence for or against it, so he assumes that she just doesn't. In that case, he would never act in a way which would reveal if she did or did not. Unless I say that she did love him, he would never act in a way that would let him find out if she did love him or not. And I have issues with this, but I want to know what you guys think of it.
Sounds like amateur game theory to me.
It's asinine. It's not an example of something that you must believe in order to find out that whether or not it's true. That's an example of somebody saying, "I'm going to pretend like it's true," and then they happen to find out that it was.
Well,
or they're hiding their vulnerability, which is a different thing entirely.
The claim is that that there are things that it is impossible to discover the truth value on until you first believe them. And I've seen no example of anything remotely like that. And to me, it's patently absurd. But if anything, believing something before you find out whether or not it's true prejudices you in such a way that you're more likely to find evidence that supports your belief.
That's actually an issue I have against it, and I was hoping you guys would say that. I would basically agree with you, but here's another example. Maybe this will make it more clear what I was saying. I don't think this is convincing enough that I believe in God, obviously, but here's another example. First, one thing that you really do have to believe in before it can actually be true, and I have issues with this too, but I thought this would be interesting to talk about again. Another thing that you do need proof, or you can't have proof of before you believe in it, and only believing in it will result in it being true, is like if you want to what was his example? it was, like, for example, I guess it would be, like, any sort of self-betterment, you know, like losing weight or something like that.
No.
You would, or like, or raising a goal. There you go. Like,
no.
If you don't believe that you're going to be able to obtain that goal. Yeah, I know. But just a second.
No.
Well, you can't apply this. I mean, applying this to a person's mental state or psyching themselves out for some sort of project or whatever, that's completely different than applying this to a God, right? The objective reality doesn't depend on your mental states, right? Your mind games might depend on your mental states, but not objective reality. You can't just make an analogy from, oh, you got to psych yourself out to lose weight, to, oh, yeah, you got to psych yourself out to believe in God. No. I mean, either there is a God or it isn't. It's either something that is provable, there's evidence for it, or there isn't. And so far, we don't have any evidence for it. So I don't buy this. I don't buy this analogy.
The whole thing was, let's just say, you know, with the whole love, that thing I was talking about earlier with the guy finding out if the girl loved him or not. You know, like, we can actually experience love. You know, we actually know that we know what it is. Pretty much everybody can experience it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can experience reaching a goal, but we can't experience God. You know.
Well, the theist would the theist would disagree with you on that. But I want to see if Amie had anything to add, since we all talked in a circle and.
No.
Nope. Okay. There we go. The big thing is that the initial claim was that there are things that are true that you must believe in before you get to them. That's not the case, for both the reason Don that I pointed out and that I pointed out. This idea that I need to believe that I can do something in order to do it. Okay, that is, I'm establishing confidence that I am likely to achieve something, and this confidence benefits me more than a negative outlook would, and I am therefore affecting the outcome. But that is not the same as saying that this will only happen if you believe it. Well, actually, whether or not it will happen is different from talking about whether or not it's true. And that's the point that Don was making, that we're talking about objective reality. So either there is a God or there isn't. And so if someone claims that the only way that you can find out if it's true is to believe it first, they are the first victim of self-deception.
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, I do agree with you. So if I didn't agree with you, I'm sure I could come.
Of course you agree with me. I'm right.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
So he does kind of make a good point. Oh, I don't know. Actually, maybe you guys can prove to me that it's not good now that you've done that. He does say later on that it is at least rational to believe in something, even if there's not sufficient evidence for it. And
no, that's not a good point.
Well, that's not what I didn't make the point yet. He said that, and I was going to. There was more
You
to
said
it.
you.
Actually, if I explain
let him
that,
finish.
that might take a really long time because he has some huge lecture, and I have to quote a lot of it. So maybe you should just look up William James, and if this sounds at all interesting to you,
I've read James, and no, this doesn't sound at all interesting to me.
Yeah, you guys really.
The claim that it is rational to believe something before you have sufficient evidence is something I find absolutely repugnant.
Let's see. What was that other guy?
I don't know, but Taylor, there's three on the lines waiting. So find out the other guy, and you can call back in and talk more if you want.
Okay, yeah. I probably won't need to because I doubt that I'd have enough of an argument to convince you guys because I don't even agree with this stuff.
Well,
okay. Maybe if you
believed it in your first clue,
it would be true.
Thanks, Taylor. You know, I get tons and tons. I get buckets of email from theists presenting their arguments for the existence of God. The other day, somebody hit me up on Facebook saying, "Hey, have you seen this list of Ravi Zacharias' 6 questions to ask atheists?" Which, by the way, wasn't 6 questions to ask atheists. It was 6 veiled arguments that contained a bazillion questions that were among some of the lamest presented. The difference is that, of course, guys like Zacharias have a better
He's got the charisma.
Vocabulary, charisma, presentation. Their arguments are no more valid than the ones you would hear from Ray Comfort and Kirk Cameron.
He just sounds convincing.
I went piece by piece through those 6 points and posted it up at the blog. And it's a good time to advertise the blog. It's atheistexperience.blogspot.com. And that post went up a couple days ago where I take his arguments apart fairly and honestly, piece by piece, pointing out the fallacies. There's nothing new there. And by the way, one of the things that Taylor mentioned was about James was arguing for belief. And that's all that Zacharias does in his 6 points. He's not arguing for the existence of God. He does nothing but make implied arguments for belief. That, oh, you better believe in God or bad things will happen. Oh, you better believe in God or your life is meaningless. Oh, you better believe in God or you have no answers to the big questions. None of those are arguments for the existence of God. None of them are arguments for anything other than belief as a way of avoiding the confusion and fear and discomfort that people have with not knowing. I'd much rather embrace reality. I'd much rather discover reality. And for people, James or otherwise, who are asserting that there's some rational justification to just go on ahead and believe in something when you don't have enough evidence, no, sorry. Demonstrate that that's actually true and maybe you'll have something. But I don't know. Anybody have anything else?
No. Hey, we ought to announce that we're going to Threadgills later tonight.
We're not going to
We're not going to Threadgills
later tonight. So it's a good idea that you reminded me so
Oh,
that I don't
okay.
announce it.
Well, my mistake.
What's happened is that because of the rally, everybody went to Dog and Duck, and we didn't want to have people having to move across town.
I see.
So when we're done with this show, we're going back to the Dog and Duck.
Oh, for more beer.
Yeah, well,
More Pascal's wage?
we don't know. It did. Who knows? So tonight, instead of Threadgills, the show's on until 6 o'clock, and at 6:30 we go to dinner. Normally we'd be going to Threadgills. Today we're going to Dog and Duck. They put the address, 406 West 17th Street at Guadalupe. There it is. Let's go ahead and take some more calls. We've got Eric in Cedar Rapids.
Hello.
Hey, Eric.
How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm really honored to be on your show.
Okay.
My question is anti-theism. I've watched.
Did you say Did you say anti-theism?
That's what I thought.
That's right.
Okay, because the note here said pantheism, so I guess I didn't hear you. Go ahead.
I've watched videos in the past of you, Matt, doing your tidbit on what you think it is, and I was just wondering because you've mentioned anti-theism to be strong atheism, where I've done not as much as you probably looking up where anti-theism is against the position against religions.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering how I could clarify that. Which one is it? Like, is it the definite answer that you firmly believe that God does not exist, or is it like a position against religion?
It sounds like you've got weak and strong atheism confused with whether or not you are tolerant of religion, which is almost a different question entirely, right? So atheism is the lack of a belief in God.
Right.
And strong atheism is kind of being sure that, or believing that there is no God, or that sort of thing. So it's a stronger position, right? But anti-theism is really sort of a position about what you feel about religion, and whether you feel it's making a contribution or whether it's harmful. So many of us in the ACA are anti-theists, but not all of us, right? And that's not a condition of membership. That's just kind of where we are on that particular spectrum. But we're all atheists.
Right.
And the language gets confusing. There are a whole bunch of different labels that a lot of people, which is why one of the things you'll hear me say on the show over and over again when I get theists who call in is tell me what you believe and why. I don't care what label you want to put on it. You can call it kerfluffin if you want to. Let's talk about what you actually believe and why. And the why being the first thing of critical importance. And the second why is, why should I also believe it? I mean, if your answer is I believe in God, not you specifically, but I believe in God because it has been revealed to me, personally, then okay, I suppose there's some possibility that you might be justified, but why should anybody else believe if they haven't had that same type of revelation? On the anti-theism thing, I am actively opposed to theistic positions as not demonstrably true, demonstrably divisive and harmful. That's it. It's not a I hate religious people. It's not an I want to obliterate religion. And it's not necessarily tied to a strong atheism position.
Yeah.
You could be a weak atheist and still be convinced that theism is a problem.
Yeah, like when I was looking it up, they classified strong atheism as non-theism. But I consider putting myself in with Christopher Hitchens' view of anti-theism as seeing religion as harmful to society. And that's where I see myself as.
I'm with you.
And Colin McGinn.
Yep, that's why I'm honored to be on the show.
What I don't know if you, I mean you run Camp Quest.
Yeah.
I don't know what labels you normally associate with, or if you even care.
Oh, I don't like labels personally because I think it defines a person too much, and especially as
Or misdefines them.
or misdefines them. That's absolutely true. As Camp Quest director, I don't want to label myself because I don't want to have influence on the kids and where they stand on their issues and their ideas. I do hold. I hold my own beliefs, but as the director of a camp that hosts kids, I really don't want to push my personal beliefs off on those children.
Sure.
See why can't other people do that? I mean, people have called into the show to say, well, the fundamentalists are pushing their position, and you're just the same thing for the atheist. You're just a preacher for atheism. Well, yeah, I probably am. The difference is that, for one, I'm not going door to door, and I don't make outgoing calls to say, hey, have you stopped believing in Jesus yet? We can help. People call this show, and people email us, and that's one of the big issues. The other one is I'm not asserting a position of there are no gods and you're full of it. I'm saying you haven't made your case. I'm not buying what you're selling. You haven't met your burden of proof. And until you do, it is wrong for you to not only claim that, but to use that to enforce those beliefs onto other people through legislation, through the schools, through indoctrination and manipulation. That's all.
Or any basis of public policy. Right?
I will take the heat for being arrogant, condescending, rude, obnoxious, critical. Throw whatever accusations you want. And I realize that I don't necessarily speak for all atheists, and there are atheist groups that wouldn't necessarily think that I'm the best representative. I don't care. None of them are telling me I'm wrong. None of them would ever come and say, no, you're wrong about religion. You are wrong when you say that they haven't met their burden of proof, because that's what I'm saying.
Sweet. Well, thank you very much. I have another question.
Make it quick.
So what's going to happen 9 episodes from now in the big 6?
Yes. I have it here on a piece of paper. We are 9 episodes away from show number 666. I don't know. Probably nothing.
Should be something cool, though.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get out our files so we can file our horns.
We'll surprise you. We'll figure out some kind of surprise.
Okay.
Yeah. I also really hope that they do something better with education in Texas. That's just really bad, what you guys were talking about earlier.
Yeah, like educating.
Well, we'd like to see we'd like to see a lot of folks get on board, because this is a common sense issue as far as I can tell. I mean, yeah, we're a bunch of atheists, on I think the right side of this thing, but don't let that deter you, man. This is pretty important to have good education for our kids. What's controversy about that?
Yeah, it won't be long before they have to change the acronym from SBOE to ESOB.
Yeah, and it's not just a Texas issue. There's 47 other states that buy our textbooks, and so it is a national problem. So if there's quite a few callers from other states, it's your problem too. So you need to to call your state representatives, and you need to call your school boards, and you need to make sure that they aren't buying the Texas version.
Do you think maybe religious leaders are bribing these people?
Well, the Discovery Institute and Wall Builders are two that are actually paying some of the SBOE staff members, board members, and so absolutely. I think there's definitely
they're not doing it by themselves.
Yeah, they're not doing it by themselves. There's organizations behind them, big organizations with lots of money,
And
pushing their
those are
agenda.
both propaganda organizations, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
It's scary.
Gotta love it.
Not that
Yeah.
it takes that. All it takes is some, you give some zealots a little power, and you're done. You don't necessarily need the backing of big, corporations or entities. All it takes is for everybody else to keep their mouth shut and ignore the problem. You get that? You can push any ideological position through to public schools or in Congress. I mean, it's the same thing there. If people don't actually object and stand up for their rights and engage in, organized, legal, civil dissent and voicing of opinions and opposing, if you don't have a good candidate in your area for the State Board of Education, run.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I got. Thanks, Eric.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate you taking my call, and you guys do a great job, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks. I already did the reminder about dog and duck. See, this is where I hit my street.
Oh, I
my
see. You
stride
got your
and
rhythm all mixed up, huh?
done the dog and duck recommendation. Screw it. I'm not going to mention any more reminders. We've got Brian in Austin. How are you?
Cows, and then have you heard of the spaghetti month? Flying spaghetti month?
We got one right here.
There's one right here in front of you.
Woohoo! It's flying.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was on the air. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're talking to
okay.
somebody else. He was explaining.
You're on the air
about Spaghetti
now.
Monster.
We do have the flying spaghetti monster.
Yes, I like that, I think.
Okay.
Maybe not really. I don't find that funny.
Okay.
well, whatever.
I do, and my girlfriend made it, and it's going to stay there.
It's pretty wonderful.
Anyway, what'd you have?
I'm happy that you enjoyed it. I'm happy for you.
Okay.
Thanks.
What you got for us, Brian?
Okay, I'm pretty sure that I have irrefutable evidence that the Holy Trinity is real. I read on your page that today's topic was about it being real or not. So,
Brian?
Yes.
Hang on. I'll let you get to that. I just want to give everybody at the Dog and Duck a moment to set their beers down before you start.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Here, are you ready for my fruit?
We're ready.
Go for it.
Okay, and I'd just like to ask that I be able to finish without any interruptions because it has to be taken as a whole.
Well, here's the thing. I'm generally willing to do that, except that it doesn't always happen, because if you build a logical argument and you start with a flawed premise, I'm not going to let somebody sit here and go on for 5 minutes when the flaw is at the very beginning and we need to address it, especially
this isn't a logical premise, build. This is an experience where something physically happened that could be reproducible.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, well, I grew up an atheist, so I wasn't biased towards religion. And one of my friends told me to read the Bible. So I was like, okay, I'll try it out. I read it for a couple weeks, and this one night, I saw the Trinity, and the Holy Spirit, I felt the Holy Spirit come inside of me, and now I'm pregnant.
That's a beer drinking moment if there ever was one.
I'm just upset because
He must have been educated in Texas, right?
he said that there was results that you could replicate, and what he really meant it was just reproducible.
Good joke.
All right. I don't know that this has actually been updated, but we got Jason in Denver.
Hey guys, that was pretty funny, I'll have to admit.
I thought we were actually going to get into discussion. By the way, for the guys in the booth, after this call, hang up on anybody who's not a theist. There you go. We're taking theist callers for the rest of the show.
If they're there.
If they're there.
Yep.
Well, first of all, I do respect you guys, and in regards to specific gods and religion, I agree with you. I just have not been convinced when it comes to the idea of a creator or a designer from the very get-go of creation.
You've not been convinced what?
I haven't been convinced of the atheist position.
The atheist position is that we haven't been convinced that there is one.
Right. So
you haven't been
I'm
convinced
that, there is
that
a
you're not
designer. That's my point.
So you're convinced there is?
Yes.
Why?
All right. Here's my my argument, and I'm interested in your feedback. The DNA basically, all scientists agree that the DNA is a code, right?
No.
It's an information code.
I'll go with that.
We'll let it slide, but
I'll go with that.
Go ahead. I'll get to it. Continue.
Okay. Now I've heard it described many times as a instruction set or a blueprint or a code. All these information, that's what I've been told.
Run with it.
Okay. So based on all the evidence that we have as humans here on Earth and in our universe, we should infer that, let me say it this way, all codes that we have knowledge of are intelligently designed, right?
No.
Codes that we have knowledge of.
Well, if I'm going to grant your first premise that DNA is a code, then I can't possibly grant the second one that all codes we have knowledge of are intelligently designed.
Well, that's my.
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Honestly.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. Saying the DNA is a code is an analogy. This idea that it is a code, you can't then say all other codes that we know of were created by an intelligence, therefore this code was created by intelligence. That doesn't work. It's an argument from analogy. And so if you start your argument by saying DNA is a code, and I'm willing to grant that premise for the sake of argument, I can't then grant your second claim that all codes have an intelligent author, because now you've got no work to do.
Well, I know, but see, the reason you can't grant that second one is because you don't agree with it. But my point is that's why I'm...
No, because you haven't demonstrated an intelligent designer behind the code that I'm willing to accept.
All the evidence that we have says that yes, there's information in these molecules, right? But all evidence is that we can go back to our parents and say, well, this is how that molecule got assembled from pieces of our parents' molecule and all the way back. So where's God in all this?
By the way, DNA is chemistry. H2O is a code. A water molecule is a code. Granted, it's not self-replicating chemicals, but there are others as well. To say that it's a code is an analogy that helps people understand it. To then take that and conflate that to say that therefore it must also have an intelligent designer is a logical fallacy.
No, my point is that the DNA, I'm not even talking about the physical properties of it as much as I'm talking about the DNA. It had to be infused with information.
No, it is information. Correct. In the sense of the analogy, not infused with, is.
Well, how did the information get into the DNA code? It had to be put there.
It's not.
It is.
And this is the problem when you're arguing from analogy. Mm-hmm. Okay? How did the information get there? No, you're not understanding. It didn't get there. It is. You're beginning by saying, hey, let's look at this and call it a code. Okay, fine. How did it become a code? I'll tell you how. Because you looked at it and called it a code.
Okay. Now let me explain. You're saying that the DNA code, we can't just say that it just got there because that's an analogy. When my point is that when we look at anything else that compares to the DNA information, whether we look at a blueprint, whether we look at information that's been created, we see a designer behind it. And so I'm saying that whenever we look at something else...
I told you where the code comes from, or where the information comes from. It comes from our parents, or it comes from the previous organisms that existed.
Of course, but I'm just talking about the original set of information that went in. I'm not talking about what's happening.
These are molecules that act as enzymes, which influences the ability of that molecule to help the creation of additional copies of that molecule. And so you end up with this arms race where all these different molecules are competing for all the little pieces out there to create copies of themselves. And there's a potential for variation because there can be copy mistakes. There can be gamma rays that come down and alter the DNA.
Yes.
And
I understand.
And so
I understand.
Once you have one thing that can replicate itself or influence the replication of itself, you have this runaway chain reaction, and you have the potential to create life from that sort of thing.
There's an additional problem, and then I'll let you continue.
Okay. Well, let me explain, because what you guys have been describing...
Hang on. I said there's an additional problem, and then I'll let you continue.
Okay.
The additional problem is that even if we were to grant all of this, you've got one big argument from induction. It's inductive reasoning to say, because we've seen this in every other case, this must also be the case in this new case that we've discovered. That's not true. It is a logical fallacy to assert that it must necessarily be the case. To say that it perhaps is more likely the case, that's a different story.
Okay, but is not, let me explain this, is not the very scientific method that we use based on inductive reasoning. When we see something and we say, okay, this is the way it works here, this is the way it works here, this is the way it works here, and we see something else that resembles that,
do experiments to verify it, and we have to replicate those experiments. So induction is part of the process, but it's verified by experimentation and repeated experiments, those sorts of things.
When we talk about whether something is true or likely true, it's the result of deductive reasoning and testing. We can say, for example, I've dropped this pin 1,000 times before, and it's always fallen to the table, so inductively I'm going to predict that it's going to fall again. But that's not just an application of inductive reasoning. It's not just an argument from analogy. What it is it's a predictive element of a scientific theory. That predictive element is the result of deductive reasoning, of testing, of having an understanding about reality. What do we lose?
Okay.
We lost the mic.
Are you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, I don't have any direct quotes from scientists, but I would love to hear what you guys think the DNA is, because I've heard it directly described as a code. It's not just like a code, it is a code.
It's a helical molecule. You can't hear me. It's a helical molecule that has a possibility of having different base pairs at each step in the helix, and nothing more than that.
Okay, so what I'm describing is not so much. See, what you guys were talking about was evolution, basically. Saying this happens and this comes together. I'm not even talking about the system of evolution, whether it works or not. I believe it does. I'm saying the very original information that had to go into the very first code.
And I'm saying that is a silly question, in much the same way that there are people who would say, please provide proof or evidence that atheism is true. Well, atheism isn't an ism that's positing some position, so the question is bad. And when you ask a question of where did that information originally come from that was put into it, there wasn't information put into it. It is information. Where did the original molecules, where did the original self-replicating molecules come from? We don't know for sure, but we have a number of ideas, and we have demonstrated that it is possible to produce the basic building blocks of life in the laboratory, that the basic building blocks of simple amino acids, etc., can come from non-living material under the right circumstances. We already know this is possible. Now, how did it happen specifically in this case on Earth? We don't know. But there's no reason to assert that an intelligent being was behind it, or that an intelligent being is even necessary to consider the question. Because there was no intelligent being behind the creation of those building blocks in the laboratory.
Okay. Now, you're saying that the information is there, but what I'm saying is it's not just random information. It's specified information.
Oh, for crying out loud. What difference does that make? Did I say it was random information?
Well, no, but that's my point. I'm saying specified information. We have evidence and proof that anytime we see specified information, it comes from a designer.
If
wow.
I talked about...
You're not even listening.
No,
we responded with detailed explanations to try to redirect the question, and what you come back with is the same thing you've come back with 3 or 4 times before.
You keep saying we don't know, but
I said we don't know in this specific case where the original material that formed life on Earth came from. But there is no necessary justification for claiming that there must have been an intelligent designer, because despite your appeal, your argument by analogy to say all other codes we've run across, they've had an intelligent designer, the fact of the matter is the basic building blocks of life have been produced in a laboratory without an intelligent designer.
Yes, just like you can put a bunch of letters together and throw them into a bin, you won't get a dictionary.
Wow.
We have a very big Earth, right? We have trillions, I don't know how many molecules on the Earth, right? We have lots of possible heat sources, right? We got the core of the Earth generating heat vents. We have lightning. We have the sunlight.
This is describing evolution.
What?
You're describing evolution.
No,
not the original
I'm describing abiogenesis.
Right. Yeah, I'm not talking about that.
You're talking about abiogenesis. That's what he said he's describing. Do you not know what abiogenesis is? It means abiogenesis, the origins of life.
Okay, but you're using examples like the heat and the different aspects of the Earth that's already there. It's already existing.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
I've always wanted to ask this question because I really don't understand. Why is it so important to have a beginning creator or an intelligent designer? Why is that so important? Why is that?
I wouldn't say that it's so important unless the evidence is pointing in that direction. Then we have to use what we have.
But if the evidence doesn't lean one way or the other, then why? I mean, it sounds to me like you're kind of bending.
Well, what my point is that we have lots of evidence that shows us that any time that anything's structured with that has specified information, a code, anything like that, that we have intelligence behind it. And I'm saying, why all of a sudden, in the case of the DNA, do we not use the evidence presented for us and say, okay, yeah, we should assume this. We should assume that this is information from a designer.
Why do you want to just stop there, though?
Because once that information is put into the system, then the system works. The evolution, as you guys have been describing, how it comes together, how species develop.
It works regardless.
So you don't.
But I'm saying the initial information going in. That's the only question I have.
You don't think nature could possibly create a molecule that was self-replicating?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the creation of the self-replicating molecule. That's where you have information that has to go in that was not there, that has to be created.
No, it has to be created, right? It has to have arisen, right? Right. So it existed at some point. Right, so the debate is how it came to exist, right? Did God come down and wave a magic wand and it happened,
right.
Or
or an alien?
We're talking a molecule. I think in one scientific paper that's about 50 base pairs long, right? These things assemble themselves like beads. They naturally assemble. If you have the constituents in large enough quantities, right? The amino acids in large enough quantities. How strange is it to assemble a molecule in a bead-like fashion that has the right 50 things? Well, maybe it's pretty rare, but I'm arguing that if you have enough time and enough of the material sitting around, and you have enough places on the Earth where that can happen, it's bound to happen. And actually scientists are a little surprised that that life didn't evolve separately in many different ways, because it's such a likely thing given the number of molecules on the Earth and the potential heat sources that could drive this reaction. So I guess my point is, we have all of the pieces for life to begin. Mm-hmm. We don't have the exact replica of how it happened or where it happened or these sorts of things, but if you look at all the problems that had to arise for life to begin, we can there are fairly simplistic scientific ways in which this might have happened, or explanations where it might have happened naturally, right? So my question is, why would you want to throw away a naturalistic explanation that reduces things to simpler things, right? All we're talking about is heat sources, the atmosphere, and the chemical elements that are available on the Earth, right? So, big deal, right?
So, yeah, the reason is because from my understanding, we can line up, and I'm not a scientist myself, I acknowledge that. I've been trying to study this. But from my understanding, if you take all the information, if you take all the amino acids, you take all the proteins, whatever, and you put them in all the right positions and everything, life doesn't just happen. There has to be an input. There has to be an input of information to start the ball rolling.
There's a notion of selection, right? So within evolution, and even in this abiogenesis thing that I've been talking about, there's a notion of when you get the right combination through one way or the other, either from a parent or from magically assembling this molecule, you end up with some sort of selection in the sense that it does something, right? It repeats, it propagates, it reproduces itself.
Okay,
and
I guess that's the crux of the matter.
It is kind of magic, right? I see why it's kind of a big thing, right? It is magical in the sense that from then on it takes over. It has a life of its own. Whether it's a conscious thing or whether it's an intelligent thing, I would strongly disagree. But it's something that once you have something recreating itself, right, in some other form, like in the sense of this molecule of enabling another molecule like itself to be created, to be assembled from those pieces that are sitting around, right? You get this runaway reaction, right? And you get many copies of this molecule.
Right.
And then, maybe there's some mistakes. Maybe some of these other molecules that are competing can do it better, can maybe cannibalize some of the first ones.
Right.
And so you get this natural competition in a sense. It's not a conscious competition, but they're competing with each other for these resources of these molecules, and the better ones win out. And this is a runaway thing, and this ultimately explains the diversity and complexity of life on this planet. It's a pretty wonderful thing, I'll grant you, and it is kind of jaw-dropping in the sense that of all of the complexity that we see is really pretty amazing, and that's what's so awesome about biology, right?
It is absolutely amazing.
So there's some good books out that I believe would address this. I'm willing to bet The Greatest Show on Earth by Richard Dawkins talks about this. I'm willing to bet.
Jerry Coyne's Why Evolution is True. There is, this is something that is not completely understood, not well understood. You've already said that you don't understand it. Clearly, I don't have a complete understanding of it, or maybe even we could argue I don't even have a rudimentary understanding of it. The point is, if you don't understand it, then you certainly are in no position to assert that it couldn't have happened without an intelligence. And this argument from analogy, once upon a time, this argument from analogy took a different form. It was, our bodies are basically machines, and every machine we've ever seen was designed by somebody. So therefore, this machine was designed by somebody. Clearly, that's not true. Clearly, that is not a valid and sound argument to make. And so once it became obvious that wasn't the case, that we could point around to other things that could be analogous to machines, now they take a step backwards. And now this DNA, it's a code. I swear, if you just drop that word from your vocabulary when you're discussing this, so that you're not prejudicing how you view DNA, and actually go in and say what it is, what the science says about it, I don't think you'll have the problem with it that you were having.
Yeah, I see your point. I mean, Matt's making the point that the word code carries with it some baggage, right? It presupposes that it's a purposeful thing, and now I understand why Matt objected to the term earlier. It's certainly information in the sense that this string of base pairs, is unique and is different than the others, and can be reduced to some sort of, binary code or binary. Here I use the word again, binary representation, that sort of thing. So it is information. So, But I do understand your point. It's almost like the question. It's very analogous to the question of who created the universe, right? The question presupposes a who, right? When the proper question is how did the universe come to exist, right? That's the proper question.
So except for that we don't have any other comparisons as we would with the code. But I understand what Matt's saying, and I think that's a good thing for me to consider.
One other little tiny thing on that is this idea of information. It's an incredibly ill-defined term, and the reason it falls apart in this analogy is that you could, for example, and ancient people did, look at the way the earth moves, the sun moves, and the stars moves as conveying information. But because we know when the sun is in this position at this time of year, it's time to plant crops. You could view that as conveying information, because you're getting a piece of information where the sun is, and you're able to then determine what position the sun's likely to be in at a different time. When is it going to be summertime? So you could construct an analogy that the movement of the very planets, the movement of everything in the heavens is conveying information. But that in no way, that argument from analogy, in no way justifies claiming that it was done by a thinking being with an intent to convey information. It is us who draw the information from it in the same way that the self-replicating molecules draw that information. It is not passing a message like a cryptic cipher or something. And I think couching it in that language is what tends to confuse people. But Jason, I appreciate the call. Thanks a lot for giving us something fun to discuss.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
As a reminder, there are probably still people sitting at the Dog and Duck, although I have this note here that says we don't know if we're meeting at Fred Gill's or not.
That's the old note.
Oh, that's the old note.
Yeah.
That's what prompted me to bug you.
So change
You
the
just
note
gotta get
on
with the
my
program.
little
Gotta get with the
screener
program.
thing. So after we're done here in about 18 minutes or so, we're going to pack up and head back over to Dog and Duck and see if anybody's still conscious.
Yeah, come down and join us. If you're in the studio audience, if you're in Austin, come down and join us. There's a whole lot of atheists in town. They're all having a great time there, and they're watching our show. That's why we're kind of talking about Pascal's wager and those sorts of things.
So while we're waiting for that to get updated, I want to actually go back a minute to Camp Quest again, because
Okay.
we're lucky enough to have Amie here, and she has been patient enough to sit through the
Oh no, this is wonderful.
the multiple conversations going on. When we met at the Texas Free Thought Convention back in November, one of the things that was going on, and I couldn't believe this. The kids were doing kind of a mini Camp Quest experience with non-Newtonian fluids,
Yes.
and I got home to tell my friend about it, and he's like, "What's that?"
Oh.
So
that's fun.
I know.
That's
for
fun.
those who aren't familiar, non-Newtonian fluids are fluids that do not behave as expected. Mark, give me the best definition for non-Newtonian fluids. Ask Jen. Okay. In any case, Google it, look it up. But the kids are actually playing with something that,
It's corn,
lots of people don't know.
cornstarch and water.
Yeah, cornstarch and water mixture. Is there?
And if you walk really fast, you can walk on water. It's pretty awesome.
If you stand, if you stand in it, you'll sink, and if you run
Praise
across it, you
Jesus.
can run. But it behaves differently, like
Yes.
on speakers, and there's videos.
Well, it
on
feels
YouTube.
wet and then it's dry.
Yeah.
It's very magical. Very fun.
It's one of the coolest things ever to play with, and I know they were doing that at the Free Thought Convention.
Yeah.
What other types of like sciencey fun stuff are we expecting for this year?
Well, I don't want to give away too much for Camp Quest Texas the week long, but actually we will be at TFC this year.
Awesome.
Yes, and we have a whole host of activities planned for the kids that sign up at the Texas Free Thought Convention. I believe it is October 8th. They actually have a date and a place. So it's in Dallas, and it's October 8th, the weekend of October 8th. And Camp Quest will be there for a day camp.
And we're going to be doing something there too.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
you might have some adults wanting to partake.
yeah, I think
Oh,
we
I
might
just
be
meant that
doing
the
some
Atheist Experience
slime.
was going to be doing something at the Free Thought Convention.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be doing something with slime, but we haven't.
Slime.
We don't want to go too much into
Slime
that.
in the
Take
ice
me
machine.
back to my old school Nickelodeon days.
Yes. Oh, Nickelodeon.
Oh, I was thinking Marvin Zimmer.
You can't do that at Camp Quest.
Oh, can I do one? Can I do a quick shout out?
Anything you want.
Okay. Hi guys from the FOF Dallas. All the friends
Okay.
back home.
Yeah, we got a lot of folks in town from Dallas and Houston and some smaller communities.
San Antonio.
Yeah, San Antonio, yeah.
As a reminder, not only are we live every Sunday, or almost every Sunday, from 4:30 to 6 p.m. on Channel 16 on Time Warner and Grande Communications, we stream the show live over the internet. And if you go to the website, you can find out more information on how to watch it live. You can go to atheist-experience.com. And then clips of the show are posted by fans, not us. That's something I need to clear up. We post the entire show. You can find it in the archive at the Atheist Experience website, and then we post an audio portion, or the audio version of it, as a podcast. What you're finding if you're watching clips on YouTube, which you may not find this in a clip on YouTube, so maybe I'm not talking to you, but our clips posted by fans, and they're not always representative of everything that happens in the show. Some of them make me look great, and some of them make me look like an ass. And they're both accurate, but you have to look at the whole picture. I'm a little bit of both.
The Zeitgeist.
Depending on,
So, but we won't be on next week.
Yes, next week's show, thank you. Oh, I knew that was like the most important thing to announce, and I forgot. Next week's show on the 23rd has been canceled. We didn't get the slot. As you know, we're normally on from 4:30 to 6. Basically, one show a month is being pushed because of training that they're doing in the studio, and we've been trying to get like either a 6 to 7:30 slot or 7 to 8:30. Next week, we couldn't get the slot, and that's fine, actually, because I'll be out of town.
So, so we'll just have a little break, but we'll be on the following week.
Yeah, I'm on
Back at our
vacation
usual
for 10
slot.
days, so no show next week because of the studio closing, and the following week Russell will be on. So
Yeah, and maybe that's a late show, but we'll watch the website. We'll have it on there.
yeah, the schedule's up, and Don keeps it up to date.
Try to.
We got Steve in Audubon.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. Stoked to be on the air fine with you guys. Been trying to call in for a few weeks now.
Okay, well, you made it.
I told him to start kicking off all the atheists so that we could get more theists in.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question here, Matt. This is back from YouTube. It's you were having a debate with a guy by the name of Matt Slick, the tag debate. Now, I don't want to rehash any of that stuff because it's BS. but the one thing I did want to ask you about was when he brought up the fact that the logical absolutes were non-material.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I just thought that was a little hole in your materialism. If it's not, you go ahead and prove me wrong. I'm looking forward to it. I have one other question if we get to it about the Trinity, but
I have no idea what you're actually asking.
Oh, really?
Well, you say the fact that they're non-material is a hole in materialism?
No. The debate as it went was he set it up that there was the things either are material or
He set up a dichotomy that everything is.
Yes, a false dichotomy. Exactly.
Hang on. He set up a dichotomy that everything is either physical or conceptual, and I said no, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted an example.
Right.
And I faltered around for a little while, and we settled on well, I'm not even exactly sure where we settled on that because there was more of this that happened after the show. But he claimed and asserted that there was a true dichotomy. Everything is either physical or conceptual. Everything. And then he wanted me to ask me which one the logical absolutes were. And I correctly said neither. And when he asked me what they were, I didn't have a label for it. The correct label would have been transcendent under the definitions we were using, and it was right there in the head of the argument. The interesting thing is that if that's a true dichotomy, physical, conceptual, then where does his God fit? And Matt Slick was asked this question on his forum by a fan of the show after this debate was over. You know what his answer was?
What?
Neither.
Right.
Okay, that is the big I lose response.
Yeah, one of the big frustrations
he's not big enough to admit that he was wrong.
With Matt Slick was he was very good at switching sides several times during the argument and trying to run Matt around, and that was very, very frustrating from an audience standpoint. I'm sure Matt was very frustrated too.
I loved it.
But I tangled with this Matt Slick guy the week before, and we got hung up on some other things. But
yeah, I mean, if you say that physical and conceptual is a true dichotomy, and then object when I say no, it's not, and when you ask me something, I say my response is neither. How can you say neither? And then the next week you're asked about which category your God fits in, and you say neither. You lost. You don't get to run around proclaiming that you won.
It's dishonest.
Despite the fact that that's
very dishonest. Yeah. So what was your other question? Let's move on from the boring philosophical stuff.
Nobody likes Tag but me and Slick.
No one likes that. No one likes that Slick guy either.
No,
I like Tag.
I don't like him. But.
Go ahead.
All right. My other question for you guys about your topic, the Holy Trinity. I'm coming from a Catholic background, charismatic renewal type people, and the thing that they always try to pass off to get around a lot of the logical problems with the concept was that it's beyond our human comprehension. I missed the beginning part of the show, so if you already covered that, I apologize. But how do you argue against something like that for friends of mine who are still into this thing, and we have conversations now?
If it's beyond their comprehension, how the heck can they say anything about it?
That's pretty straightforward.
Right. Why have church?
By what justification?
What are you collecting money for?
Yeah, what is their justification for claiming that this is a God or Holy Spirit if they don't understand it, if it's beyond their ken? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't claim that you have this personal relationship with the deity and then claim that it's beyond your comprehension.
Yeah.
There's about 10 different ways to say it.
They like to trot that up for atheists, right? Because atheists will say, well, if you're, they'll call people on. They're making all these claims about God does this, God does that, God feels this, God says this, right? And then atheists say, well, that doesn't make sense, or what does God say about that? Given that He said these other things. Then they come out and flip it around and say, oh, well, you can't possibly understand. You're too stupid. So it's like Matt says, it's like having your cake and eating it too, right? You can't, on the one hand, make all these claims about God, and then on the other hand say He's incomprehensible, right? Those two are incompatible.
That sounds pretty straightforward. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's the things that they always go in that story about Augustine and the little kid on the beach turns out to be Jesus and he's trying to fill the ocean with this holy man in the sand. He's like, how do you expect to understand the Trinity? You know that story.
Oh.
Hear that
I haven't heard that one, but it sounds like a cheesy thing.
See, I was.
Guys, thanks a lot for everything you do, and you guys take care.
Sure, thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
I was raised Baptist, and although there were Catholics in the family, but it wasn't until I actually went to my first funeral or Catholic funeral or mass that it really hit me. If you're a Catholic, I have a special task for you. Next time you're at Mass for whatever, I don't know, it may not happen as often as normal Masses, but certainly seem to happen at funerals. Count the number of times that the word mystery is used. Just do it. Count the number of times mystery is used, because that to me was overwhelming. The great mystery of this and the great mystery of this, and God in your infinite mystery and your mystery and your mystery, and you're so mysterious. Well, congratulations, you basically just said, we don't have a clue what's going on. We're not really sure why this is going on, and we're not willing to admit that we don't know why we feel justified in asserting that there is a God. But you can't solve a mystery with a mystery. You cannot answer the big questions.
Well, if you're trying to run people around looking for cheese, mice in a rat's maze looking for cheese, maybe that works, right? Well, because you're moving the cheese all the time.
Yes.
But if you're trying to explain the universe, adding mysteries is not helpful.
Yeah, right? you haven't actually presented an explanation, because when we explain things, we take something that we don't understand, and we increase our understanding of it by addressing and comparing it to and making use of things that we do understand. In most cases, that's how we gain understanding. We learn a little something about this, and we learn a little something about this, and we learn a little something about this, and then we figure out how those things work together to learn something about this. We have not increased our understanding. If your answer, it's not an answer, it's a response to why is this this way it's a mystery. And it's no better if you say, God did it. Those two answers are equivalent in their explanatory power. Magic Man done it, God done it, Universal Creative Pixies did it. It's a mystery. None of those have any more explanatory power than the other. There is an answer, though, that you can substitute in there, or a response that you can substitute in there that's much better, and that is, I don't know, but let's find out. Because these answers prevent you from actually going out and finding out. You think you've already known. Oh, where did the universe come from? God did it. Done.
Yeah,
got it done before breakfast.
The discomfort of not knowing is what impels us to go out and find the answer, right? It's that discomfort that drives innovation in science and exploration, and that discomfort is the thing that gives us what the treasures that we have gained from science and technology.
Absolutely.
So by shutting that off, you're just throwing that all away.
Yeah, that's what we focus on a lot at Camp Quest. You know, don't ever accept an answer just because. You know, always question and ask why. And I think those are excellent
those are
points.
themes to live by.
It's the type of stuff that we should be teaching everybody everywhere. People, they're like, oh, do you favor the teaching of Bible in schools? Yeah, actually I do.
Absolutely. Why not?
I'm in favor of it. I don't necessarily think that we need to go adding classes on it right now because, you know, it's more of an I don't object. And I think there is some potential benefit. I think there's more of a benefit from teaching like comparative religion courses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent of comparative religion because religion, whether we want to admit it or not, has played a huge part in society and the forming of nations and forming of communities and society. You can't study history without studying religions. You know, I think the biggest thing with the SBOE and why we were all at the rally today was because they're choosing to exclude, 80-90% of the population of people in history, and that's not okay. We have to talk about them all if we're going to talk about one.
Absolutely. Have we got any last minute announcements that we need to get out of the way?
None that I can think of.
See, usually we're almost out of time, and actually I have like a minute before they're going to start rolling the credits, and I have absolutely nothing to rant about.
You don't?
We're tired from the rally.
I'm having a good day. I was tired. I went out, I got some sun. My head's a little red.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting ready to be gone for 10 days. I'm really glad that Amie finally made it onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
We've
I
been
appreciate
wanting to have her on.
CampQuestTexas.org. If you're a parent, religious or not, secular or not, and you're interested in looking at something other than church camps to give your kids something to do and enjoy during the summer, check it out and see if it's something that your kids would be interested in.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank all the guys in the back of the booth. We're almost out of time. We'll not be on next week. Remember that. Nonprofits is on hiatus. I'm getting ready to go on 10 days vacation.
You're all falling apart.
There are people here who are going to be jonesing for a fix. Start over on the archives. That's what they're for. And
we've got almost 5 years, over 5 years of material out there. So
there's at least
it'll
5
keep you
years.
busy.
That's awesome.
Go dig out an oldie.
Yeah, and maybe in a month or so, if you're really, really good, we'll have R and Raw back.
Okay.
Roll the credits, guys. We're out of
really.
time. There's the people who actually make it happen. And thanks to everybody who came down to the rally. And if you're over at the Dog and Duck, Shinerbach. Be there in a minute.
Okay, yeah, they have a good selection of stuff down there. Yeah. And I guess we're going to go there after the show. So come down and meet us if you're in Austin.
And come see me on the 19th at the rally.
Woot.
We need your help and support.
Okay, the other rally.
Bye-bye.
The other rally.